What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Apologies for the 5-minute late start here. I had some computer issues with my speakers, but we're good to go here. Frank and I are back again. College football week 4 edition of the opening line. Frank and I had pretty good weeks last week. Frank, why don't you recap everybody for how you did over at EliteSportsBetting.com for college football?
Yeah, 5-0 for me. I finally got some good luck on my side. We talked about last week how, there were some totals where teams just literally didn't score a point. Wisconsin threw in the backup quarterback on an over that we had and all that stuff. And then boom, 5-0. Got a little bit lucky. I think it was the Ohio game, the first game of the week for me last week on a Thursday. The game got out of hand, and then they put all the backups in and they scored a touchdown. It was great. So got a little bit lucky there with some play calling towards the end. One team stayed aggressive. And then the Oklahoma State game, +5 in that game. I think they won 21-20, but there was a clear fumble and a clear recovery by Boise State. And there was nobody in front of the guy, and he got about to the 5-yard line, and they whistled it dead and called the guy down. And even watching it live with a terrible angle, I was pretty sure the ball was out. And they erroneously whistled it dead, and Boise State tried to kick a field goal, which would have, got me the cover anyway, but just the callback on the, the return from the fumble saved me. And I think there was like a minute left in the game. So, covered the +5 there. Had a ton of movement my way in that game, so it would have been pretty bad to lose that way. But, we complain about the ref errors and everyone on the Boise side there. I feel bad for you.
Yeah, I was watching that call as well because I had the under, which they scored 41 points in the first half, which I was like, great, this is exactly what we want. And then 0 in the second half. So we'll take it. Good week for me as well. I went, 6-2? So nice. Combined from us, 11-2. Paulie's been doing well over at EliteSportsBetting.com. Again, I have 9 plays fired up for this week. Frank, you have... how many?
5, I think. Another 5?
Yeah. So, 14 plays between the two of us. Paulie, he's already got, I don't know, looks like 7 or so. So, again, head over to EliteSportsBetting.com. We'll break down a couple games here today, give away a couple bets, but not the entire card. So, if you want the entire card, EliteSportsBetting.com. And subscribe, get a bet pack here. As always, if you miss any part of today's show and you want to go back and see which games we break down, at Elite Betting on Twitch, hit the follow button, and the Elite Sports Network on YouTube. Subscribe there. These videos will be up there as soon as we're done broadcasting live here. So if you haven't been watching, we usually break down a couple big games, whether we have a bet in them or not, and then we get into a couple games that we have bets on. And this is kind of a weak schedule. I know the month of October gets better for us in college football, but Notre Dame, Wisconsin's the biggest game of the weekend. It's pretty big. I guess I'm saying that more. Wisconsin hasn't looked all that great. Notre Dame hasn't looked all that great. Where it's still 2 names that before the year we thought maybe would be kind of the fringe playoff contenders. Doesn't really look like either of these teams are going to be that. But again, still a big game here. Played at Soldier Field in Chicago. So what do you got in this one, Frank?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Both these teams have been, the definition of average kind of in a bad way, because I think coming in the season, I had Wisconsin like 7th or something like that. Notre Dame was up there. We're sitting Notre Dame around 12th just because they didn't lose to Penn State in the way that Wisconsin did. Otherwise, Wisconsin would, more than likely still be ahead of them in this ranking system. Wisconsin, though, kind of a neutral-ish field, not really. I think probably a little bit of an edge towards Wisconsin, although the Notre Dame fan base will travel, I suppose, to this game. And I know that they tend to like split up tickets and things like that on these sorts of games. But Wisconsin by 6, and people are going to look at the lower ranked team. But Wisconsin, I think, is the better team in this game. Notre Dame, that FSU win is looking a lot worse right now than what it was when they won in overtime. And it was like kind of a fun, exciting game. And people probably thought more of Notre Dame. The Wisconsin offense, though, has been really bad, but the defensive line is extremely good. Notre Dame's offensive line is not good, despite Jack Cohn being pretty decent. He was a Wisconsin transfer, right? Like,
yes,
Notre Dame.
Well, revenge game, if you will.
Yeah, revenge game narrative here. I do think Wisconsin is the better team. I think that this total has creeped up to 47. I made this like 44, 43, 44, somewhere in there. And I have Wisconsin winning by, let me check here, 4 points. So we're seeing some movement. in this game, and seeing around 5.5, 6, and then we're seeing some total go up a little bit. And I don't know that I agree with it. I think that both these teams, what they do well, especially offensively, the other team will be able to stop. And I think this Wisconsin line, especially on the defensive side, is going to destroy the Notre Dame offensive line. And, the one piece there that has been really good for Notre Dame is Jack Cohn. And I think that he's going to struggle. And I just don't see this Wisconsin team putting up a lot of points. Graham Mertz has been pretty underwhelming so far. I don't know. The Wisconsin running game's getting going a little bit. They're looking more like the Wisconsin running game that we've seen, but that usually doesn't score many points, right? So I do think that Wisconsin wins this game, and I think it's going to be on the defensive side, and it's probably a little closer than what it should be for them. And again, if you want to play something here, I do lean a little bit towards the under now that some over money came in.
Yeah, it's a weird, Notre Dame is not what Notre Dame has been for the last few seasons. Like the last few seasons, Notre Dame has really had a great offensive line. Kyron Williams, their running back, is really good. It's just their offensive line has just been so poor. They can't run the ball at all. Through the 3 games, the Jack Cohn's kind of saved them with his passing, which I know before the year I have a group of friends that kind of trash Notre Dame because they're just Notre Dame haters, and they're like, "Oh, Jack Cohn, really? He's going to be the savior?" And yeah, he has been. It's kind of weird. Notre Dame can't run the ball, and I don't think, like you said, I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball against Wisconsin.
No.
Wisconsin against Penn State, I'm not really going to take too much away from their game against Eastern Michigan because it kind of seemed like Eastern Michigan didn't even try on offense. They just kind of hey, we'll just take our money and get out of here. But Penn State did have some big plays down the field, so that's Notre Dame's path to win this game. I really don't see them if they try to run the ball. It's just going to end so poorly. So I'm with you. I think this is a slight lean towards the under. I make this 6, so I guess I have a slight lean towards Notre Dame as well. But I just see both offenses struggling. Notre Dame's defense has been big play. They basically have been giving up big plays. That's really the only issue they've had. I don't know if that's the new coordinator over from Cincinnati and Marcus Freeman, if that's just a kind of early season figure out, what your roles are. But Wisconsin's not a big play threat. So Wisconsin, what they do is not going to work. Notre Dame's going to have to kind of throw the ball, and it just doesn't seem like they are going to really be able to throw the ball. As for the environment, I do think this will probably be pretty neutral. Even it's like you said, they split the tickets. Notre Dame travels well, Wisconsin travels well. But like I said, I make this 6. I have the slightest of leans towards the under. I've bet a couple of these, but you bet college football unders in the mid 40s. I know these two teams kind of play the style of play that allows that to happen, but I just you're not gonna have a very good time betting.
You just see craziness happens too. The Boise State short got called back, but you see a fumble recoveries for touchdowns, and you see pick sixes, and you see punt returns and things like that happen all the time. So it does sort of tend to happen. But I think just subjectively think that Notre Dame has to throw the ball well, like you said, and Wisconsin is a little bit more susceptible in the secondary than they are in the front 7. And I just think that kind of makes Jack Cohn a little bit desperate. I think that the defensive line for Wisconsin is going to get to him, and I think he's had 3 straight 300-yard games. I think throwing the ball so far. I just don't see it, man. I just don't see it with this Wisconsin front 7. I think they're going to get to him and have make his day tough. Now that can lead, like you said, you might not have a fun time with some pick sixes or punt returns and things like that happening. So I tend to agree. If you wanted to play something, like you said, lean a little bit towards the under, but I did not play anything in this game.
Yeah, it's a tough game. It should be good to watch. And I know people will say neither of these teams have playoff aspirations, but with the Big Ten kind of looking, I guess more open because Ohio State's struggling, and Notre Dame just has to basically go undefeated. Even if Notre Dame has 1 loss, they're just going to be kind of automatically thrown in there because that's how this happens. But kind of some sneaky big playoff aspirations in this game. And like I said, this is kind of a slow week for big games here. So this is the biggest one. There's really not much else going on here. So next game that we're going to go through, Texas A&M And Arkansas, like I said, another one that's not exactly too excited to get back, but go over. But another low total in this game, Arkansas plus 4.5. This game is not at Arkansas; it's at Jerry's World. They've been doing that for, I don't know, it seems like 5 or so years now. They've kind of restarted this rivalry. Total is 47. What do you like in this game, if anything?
Yeah, another one where I sort of lean a little bit towards the under, like you said. Yeah, this is a weird game for me now. It is being played in Jerry's World, which tends to play faster in these domes and that sort of thing. The atmosphere is a little bit more hyped up, I suppose. Arkansas has been way better than what anyone has thought so far through 3 weeks. Maybe a little bit of an overreaction gets people betting this number down to 4.5 now. I believe it started at 6 or 5.5. Getting bet down, maybe a little bit overreaction to what Texas A&M has done and compared to what Arkansas has done. But this Arkansas team was like the basement of this conference, right? And now
like way down.
They were okay last year, and now they're look pretty good. I mean, they're sitting at 16th, and you look at Texas A&M winning on defense this year. Like, what is going on with this? They're very methodical and deliberate on offense. I don't see Arkansas having the success necessarily that they have had just because of that. I think this is a close game, though. Another game where probably closer than it should be, and I think we're going to see very methodical football down the stretch. I made this game like 45, 45.3, 47. So lean a little bit towards the under now that this has gone up a little bit. I'm surprised to see a little bit of movement, but people apparently liking the Arkansas offense against the Texas A&M defense, at least to about a point or point and a half here. I think A&M will, I think the talent will win out here. I think they will edge Arkansas in this game, but man, this is like one of those super grindy, fight it out SEC games that like non-traditional, like for these two teams so far.
Yeah, Arkansas, Kendall Briles comes over. He was with, obviously, the last name of Briles. He comes from an offensive tree. We'll stick to their football philosophies more so than off the field. But Arkansas, he's kind of I don't want to say like revolutionized the offense, but given it a little bit of life here, and they have been better. But like week 1 against Rice, they scored like 21 points in the last, I don't know, like 7 minutes or something in that game. Maybe it was the fourth quarter. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong, but that game was super close, and then they scored late. I'm with you. I do think Texas A&M, their defense has been fantastic. I wonder if this is a slight overreaction to Texas A&M's offense being a little sluggish to start the year. Like you said, we don't really expect them to really struggle to score here. Arkansas, I don't know. I make this line. It's tough because I don't really know what to make of Arkansas yet. This is the best defense they're gonna face so far. Everybody got excited about their Texas win, and I'm not sure Texas is in year 1 of Sarkisian is going to be anything special. I don't know. Like everybody's high on Sarkisian, but he was at Alabama, and Alabama just never loses. So like, should we really like? And I guess like who who's the Saban assistant that's been like? I know Kirby Smart and Georgia has been pretty good, but like, they've all kind of just been like whatever. Like he's tried a couple at Tennessee now. It's not really working out at Tennessee, and it's I don't know what to make of Sarkisian at Texas. So. Arkansas, I don't know. I make this 5.5. Texas A&M minus 5.5. I do make the total 47.5. So I'm actually like slightly into the over. Not obviously worth a play here, but I just wonder if like again I hate betting NFL totals in the 40s, and you're asking me. We've brought up 2 games with 40, 46.5 and 47 so far. So a little nervous there for me. But again, I got no edge. This again, like I said, the games are this is literally the second biggest game of the weekend. It's kind of like a lull week before we get into like some good conference play. I know we got.
I think there's like an obvious warning sign here for Arkansas. This game, I don't see really how it gets out of hand to begin with. But like Katie Jefferson was 12 for 21 against Rice. You look at the Texas game, he was 14 for 19 for 138. And then threw 366 yards on 13 completions against Georgia Southern, but he was still in 13 for 23 in that game. I understand that they're like just launching it down the field, but this is not going to work against this Texas A&M defense. So
Yeah.
I do think they edge them. They'll probably get some chunk plays, but this is going to be sort of a grindy one, I think, with just a lot of just bad offense on both sides.
Yeah, it's uphill, very, very uphill battle.
And it really kicks off like a very bad stretch for Arkansas if they are going to be susceptible, and they go to Georgia next week, Ole Miss after that, Auburn, right? Like these 4 games for them are going to be pretty tough in terms of trying to keep up with Ole Miss, and then going against Auburn and Georgia.
Yeah, you got neutral at Georgia, at Ole Miss, and then you do return home against Auburn. That's a pretty brutal stretch. And then, you have at LSU and at Bama at the end of the year as well. So that's what happens when you're not the best team in the SEC. You get to play all the other teams. Like Alabama avoids itself, right? Like that's how it works. Yeah. All right, let's get into some bets here. First game, we each have a bet. This is the first week we don't have the same a play on the same side, but we do have a play each in this game, which we had, I think, 1 or 2 maybe last week like that. So Boise State at Utah State +9. Total is 70 in this game. What do you got in this one?
Yeah, I think Boise State is a little bit like, this is a weird one for me, betting against Boise State last week and then coming back and playing on Boise State this week, but they should have won that game 1. We'd probably be looking at a 10 if that guy scoops and scores there against Oklahoma State. They could have won that UCF game. Yeah, they had some kind of wonky stuff going on in that game to make it as close as they did, but they lost by 5 to UCF. They should have won against Oklahoma State. They're playing far better teams than Utah State has played to this point, and it's weird to get 9 on the road and lay those points. But I made this game closer to like 12. I don't know. Bachmeier really struggled against Oklahoma State, but Utah State's defense is not Oklahoma State's defense. And we talked about coming into that game how Oklahoma State's defense has been kind of like Texas A&M in a way, where like the defense has been a little bit better than what people have realized. So I think Bachmeier will be okay. Like I said, they should have won last week. We'd be looking at a 10 here if they just didn't blow that play dead, or if the guy made the field goal even. I think this is a totally different look. 0 points in the second half last week. They'll get that straightened out. I'm not too worried about it. Utah State has been better than expected, but this just feels to me, and we've talked about this for the last the first few weeks here, this feels to me like an overreaction to a Boise State team that's 1-2 that could easily be 3-0 with 2 quality wins, and a Utah State team that beat Air Force, that beat North Dakota and Washington State, and they're getting by in these games very close, right? So I just don't see it. I think Boise State is the far better team, and I think they win this game.
Yeah, I lean Boise as well, and I've been this is the second week in a row that I'm playing an under involving Boise. I don't trust their offense, but again, like you said, Utah State's not what Boise has faced so far.
This total was 64.
Yeah, I don't understand
what happened here.
So this is what happened. Utah State. I'm not even gonna. I don't care about their North Dakota win. That means nothing to me. They won 48-24. Sure, it's a high total, but it's an FCS school. They play Air Force last week, and 49-45 that game goes, right? Both teams had 600 yards of offense. I don't really care. Like, military academy games get really weird. It's kind of like
Air Force threw the ball 12 times.
Right. Like the game. I know they're conference opponents, and like if you've seen like option teams before, you have a better chance of like having success. Like if you've never seen them, like and I saw someone bring up a good point. Like nobody, like your coaching staff may have never coached against them, and then at the same time, your players, because nobody runs it in high school anymore, have literally never seen it. Like, so it's a totally foreign concept. So like I don't know if people just think like Utah State's defense is like atrocious, which I don't think it's good, but I don't think it's like worse than all of college football.
Well, it kind of goes at the line of like, if they are that bad, shouldn't this line be higher then? Like, I don't.
Right, yeah, like that's what. Yeah, I'm with you. So again, I don't know what to make. Like, I think Boise State's defense is okay, right? Like, I think they're solid. I don't think they're like anything special, but I don't exactly see Utah State putting up a ton of points in this game either. Like, so I've mentioned this. Boise State in the UCF game. They had a pick six, 100-yard pick six in that game. They scored 7 points in the second half. Against UTEP, they had, I believe, a kickoff return for a touchdown. And then in UTEP, they had 5 drives less than 50 yards go for scores. So, I just don't think Boise State's offense. Again, I lean Boise State in this game. So I do agree with Frank's side too. While I'm kind of trashing Boise State because I see Boise State being the team who scores the most points in this. Like they're the under killer in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I went under. I make this like 65-ish in that range.
You were on market, and you were between them.
Right. Like I just this number just flew up to 70, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take 10 touchdowns in this game. Like Boise State in the second half. I don't know if this. I don't know if this second half thing is an issue. If they're like again new coach there, so I don't know. Like things are turning aren't going as planned, but. They scored 7 in the second half against UCF. They scored 0 against Oklahoma State. I know Utah State's not to the level of those teams, but it's not like UCF has this fantastic defense. So I don't know if there's something there with Boise State's game planning. Again, new coaching staff. Maybe they're a little in over their heads. I don't know. It just seems that this number is ridiculous. And on top of it, this is a 10 a.m. local start. 10 a.m. I don't know why. Like TV talks, I guess. I don't. This game's on CBS. They were like, hey, let's play at 10 a.m. Why not? And so I don't know. Offenses get a little sleepy at 10 a.m. Like that's an early start for any sporting event, essentially, except for a swim meet. But I like the under here. I agree with your side at 9. I agree with if Boise, a couple things go their way and they are 3-0. This game is honestly it's probably like 11. So
everything like you mentioned, everything went the way in this Boise State game against UCF. Everything went the way that UCF far better offense, right, than Utah State. Everything went the way that to score as many points as they could have possibly scored, and it was 67.
It's one of those. I really think it's one of those like the last week Utah State played. We saw this with Memphis, right? Memphis last week. I had the under in that game. You had or did you?
No, you had Memphis. I had the under. Yeah.
But I agree with the under. I thought the under was worth a shot there as well. And they played a game the week before. It had 105 points. And I said like 2 of them were scored. 2 touchdowns were scored in the last 5 minutes. Like this is a step up in defense. Now I know again Utah State's not anything special here, but it's like Utah State 49-45 against an option team. Like wow, they must be just giving up points all over the place. Like meanwhile, they just beat Washington State 26-23 in week 1. So it's not exactly a team that scores a ton here. So kind of an interesting line in my opinion. So next game, another one we both have plays on different sides, but we're both involved here. Indiana at Western Kentucky here. Western Kentucky +9 total in this game is 64. What side are you going for in this game?
Yeah, almost the same thing as the last game. I'm taking this dog. I'm laying the points. This is just an overreaction to me to Indiana playing 2 teams that are far better than them and losing pretty handedly. But we expected them to lose to Iowa. We expected them to lose to Cincinnati, and they did have a 14-0 lead against Cincinnati. But Cincinnati's quite good, right? I think people were a little bit shocked. They're like, wow, this is Cincinnati's going to lose this game to Indiana. Like, what a spot. But I think this is a little bit of an overreaction to those games. Western Kentucky beat Chattanooga 13-10. Yeah, they rolled Tennessee Martin, whatever it was, and then lost close to Army. And how many times did Army throw the ball last week? They scored
probably 6 times in that game.
38. They scored 38 points, and they threw it 6 times. He was 5 of 6. Indiana is way better, and still, in my opinion, than all 3 of those teams. It's on the road. It's not, laying this points on the road aren't my favorite thing to do. But another game that I made north of 10, and I think if Indiana plays a schedule that it looks like Western Kentucky's schedule, they're probably way higher favorites in this game, right? Like they played 2 teams that were top 7, 8 teams in the country so far that we've seen. So the schedule does get tough for Indiana. Michigan State looks good. Ohio State, obviously, Penn State in there. But this is a game I think where they can get right and just knock the doors off Western Kentucky. And Phoenix has been horrible, absolutely horrible. But we just saw an Army team scored 38 points against Western Kentucky, and they threw the ball 6 times. So I think Indiana's going to come out and they're going to run the ball, and they're going to run it right down their throats. And I don't think Western Kentucky is going to be able to keep up or put up the points against the pretty decent Indiana secondary. the Iowa quarterback, what's his name? Petros went 13 of 27 against them. Hold on, I'm looking here. Idaho, who is an FCS team, so I'm not that concerned about it. I think the guy threw for like 190 yards. And the Cincinnati quarterback, Ritter, went 20 of 36 for 210. So Western Kentucky is going to have to throw the ball, and I don't think they're going to be able to. And I know that Indiana can just run it down their throats, despite Phoenix being absolutely horrible. This is pretty much, the first 3 games have been really, really bad. So I think they'll come out with a solid game plan here. They're going to watch how Army just ran it down their throats, and Indiana's, I think, going to do the same thing here.
Yeah, Western Kentucky, people are it seems to be jumping on the hype train a little bit with their new offense. They bring over Zach Kitley from Houston Baptist, who is an air raid adopter, and like Houston Baptist was they put up some absurd numbers again in some FBS games that they played over the years under Kitley. So people are getting excited there. They brought the quarterback too. I think his name's Zappy. I don't know. However you pronounce it. He was at Houston Baptist under Kidley. I think they brought 2 wide receivers as well. So it's basically the Houston Baptist offense here. They're gonna try to throw the ball 50. They're probably gonna throw 55 times in this game. I'm not a believer in. I think this is a different level of competition. All right, like I think we're getting they threw against Army, and Army has had a defense. Now they had a week off to prepare. Sure, I had the under in this Western Kentucky Army game, and I just want to mention how ridiculous this game was. In the first quarter, they combined for 0 points. In the third quarter, they combined for 7. But in the second, they combined for 35, and in the fourth, they combined for 31. So it was like a tale of 2 games in that game. They threw 40 times against Western or Army, so they're going to throw. Indiana, I think, has the athletes to slow it down. I don't think Western Kentucky is just going to come in. I saw the one stat was Houston Baptist put up so many points, almost beat Texas Tech and all these things. Texas Tech didn't have a defense that year, so it wasn't that impressive. I think Indiana is going to be prepared for it here. Indiana, like you said, Indiana's offense has been the issue. Penix has been brutal. He's thrown 3 interceptions in both the Iowa and the Cincinnati game, and really they killed both. He threw 2 pick sixes in the Iowa game. I think it was 2 short fields in the Cincinnati game. They also gave up a kickoff return in the Cincinnati game. So the defense has no worries. So I don't love this matchup for Western Kentucky. That's why I played under. And I don't know if Penix isn't healthy coming off the ACL from last year. But I tend to think he is healthy because that's really been decision making. It's not like his throws have been terrible. The last one against Cincinnati was he was basically at the sideline. He tried to throw back to the middle of the field, and we know how that's going to work pretty much every time. So I played under 64 here. This has climbed a little bit, but again, I'm with you. This is kind of like our plays correlate in the sense I don't think Western Kentucky has success on offense here.
No,
to
not the success they have had. Yeah, and this is another game that's gone up from 62.5 to 64. Now that it's gone up, I do like the under as well. The main thing that concerns me with this Western Kentucky offense is that Indiana could be up 17 or 14 in this game or something like that, and then get a couple scores late when Indiana's just kind of hanging out. I don't think Indiana's going to really try to push the ball and run up the score. So that does make me a little bit nervous, but just sort of hoping, praying that we don't get backdoored here. Yeah, that is the problem with the team that Western Kentucky is probably never going to stop throwing the ball, right? That's how it kind of goes in these games. They're just going to continue. So you kind of hope Indiana gets outside of that backdoor limit there. So. That's it for the scheduled games that we want to talk about. That's 4 bets that we've given out. Like I said, we have what? I have 9. I said you have 5. Paulie's got a whole bunch of more in there. Any other games that you want to touch on real quick, or I mean, you've given out 2 of your 5. I think you should probably keep your mouth shut a little bit. I could. Well, I can throw one out there just because it is one of the. I think this was the Friday game, Middle Tennessee, Charlotte. I played over in that game over 55.5. That has gone up a little bit. So, friendly reminder, 56.5 now is that total. That's getting up there. If you're looking for some early action, Before you get to Saturday. I mean, I don't think there's really much going on Friday. We'll have NFL Thursday. So handful of games Friday in there: Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, Virginia, Liberty, Syracuse, woof. UNLV, Fresno State, also woof, 31.5 win favorite in that game. I would say that that's probably the one bet still hanging out there. That's if you wanted to play early on, like there's a Thursday game, Marshall, Appalachian State. Lean a little bit towards the under there, but I did play over in Middle Tennessee. Again, that number is a point higher. I would prefer to be 56 or 55.5 if you can play that. If it goes back down, I think you have some ability there to play.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's another reason to get into the bet pack early. I don't have an edge on the number now at 57-ish, 56.5 we're seeing. But the 55.5, I would have had an edge. So Frank got to that number. I don't think we're seeing 55.5 again this week. So again, head to elitesportsbetting.com. Frank, I think your play's right on Monday.
Usually, Monday afternoon, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So plays early in the week. You got to beat the market here. I'll give out a Friday night game as well. Still available. Wake Forest in Virginia. I'm playing the under at 68. Hold your nose a little bit because Virginia just played a game against North Carolina that had 98 points. Virginia's offense is really good. Wake Forest has really struggled to they haven't put up great offensive performances against bad teams. It's one of those things where they can't run the ball. They're averaging 4 yards per carry, and they've played just terrible teams so far. They have not run the ball well against. They had an FCS school in there that they didn't run the ball against. Who's the other one that I'm missing here? I can't remember off the top of my head. But I think that makes them one-dimensional. And Wake in the past has wanted to go really fast, and they haven't. Old Dominion, the other one. They just haven't been able to move the ball. Virginia is going to be a step up in class. They did play a little bit better against Florida State last week. Wake Forest did, but Florida State's just like you said earlier, they're just slowly turning into wasting away Notre Dame's win. We thought Notre Dame had a solid win, and it's turning out not to be. So I do think Virginia has the chance to put up points here, but I really just don't think Wake Forest has a clear path to moving the ball here. I'm not getting into that North Carolina scored 59 points on them. North Carolina's offense is really good. They just didn't play well on their national game against North Carolina or Virginia Tech. North Carolina was expected to be a top 5 offense this year, so it is what it is. Wake Forest is far from that. Under 68, there's some low vig out there that you could play. 68.5 even at some places. I would jump on those numbers as I really don't see Wake Forest moving the ball here. So Friday night under and with a game of involving a team that just gave up 98. That's what we want to do on our Friday nights, right? But yeah, that's where the value is. I think overreactions. We see it more so. I mean, we see it in the NFL market too. These overreactions to 1 week in the end. You could really just bet I'm interested to see if you just didn't take in last week's games and just all right, I made this game 65 and then now it's 68. Okay, what that's what it was with last week's numbers. Let's put in this week's numbers, see what the line adjusts to. It's probably not adjusting as much as the market is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there are certain situations where it calls for it, but
yeah, if a team is running with much more pace or changing up how much they're passing or something.
Especially for a number to move 6 points, that Utah State game. And then you also talk about, Wake's schedule here. Florida State proving not to be very good. Norfolk they played in ODU. So this is just a different beast, right? This is a totally different game. And I do think that there is opportunity, particularly in the college football market, where the vast majority of teams, especially decent teams, that you'll start to see in week 4 and week 5 in conference play, they just played a bunch of scrubs, right? And some teams might look really good against high school level competition, and then they have to play actual recruits, and then they get rolled because they just haven't had that experience yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing too. It's it's not even that they could be playing a decent FCS school, but it's just the talent. Talent eventually, I know that quote hard work beats talent. No, it doesn't. Eventually there's a gap that just you can't overcome. This is why Alabama's never going to lose a game to an FCS school. It's basically 100% at that point. but yeah, like it's one of those things where this is a huge step up. I could see Virginia. I don't want to say like sitting on this lead if they get out to one, because this game is close, like line, at four,
Yeah,
whatever it is. So I don't expect too much, but like Virginia, there's just the bet. I think they're the better team. I think they get out to. I don't love this matchup. I think Wake Forest we're clinging to like last year's data, and when you're not, like I've said this before, when you're not scoring and putting up big numbers against really bad teams, like Old Dominion's basically an FCS school at this point.
Yeah, is there really a difference, right?
Yeah, like they're bottom 10 in, probably you could make that number smaller in FBS right now. There's plenty of FCS schools that would be favored over them. Norfolk State obviously is FCS. They're not top of the FCS either. And Wake Forest didn't put up great numbers against them. So like the scores might look like they're blowouts. I just don't. I want to see more. I want to see like efficient numbers where like you don't score much in the second half because you were already up 42-3 or whatever the score is. So, Virginia after this game does go to Miami and Louisville. I can see that maybe just if they do get out in the lead in this one, kind of sitting on it, trying to get, with back-to-back home games coming up, away games, trying to get out of this one. So that is play. 2 Friday plays. Look at that. Was that 6 bets we gave out in the 35 minutes that we've been on here. Again, like I said, I have 9 total plays. Frank's got 5. Paulie's got 7 or 8. So head over to elitesportsbetting.com for the rest of those. Anything you want to add for just overall at elitesportsbetting.com? Anything at all?
I know we usually do best bets, but I would say honestly the two most in the same game, the 2 bets you talked about, I think I like the most is that under, now that it's gone to 70 in the Boise State game, and Boise State with the points. Yeah,
that's what I would be. My best bet would be that under in the Boise State Utah State game. Just I think gross overreaction to the Air Force Utah State game. So tomorrow, lunch money, I'll be on breaking down the NFL slate. A whole bunch of crew. Paulie will be on there with me. The other guy, Ricky, it's a revolving door. He might be on. He might be someone else. Armando was on last week. Pilar will be hosting us. Saturday, tailgate teaser. Me and Duke, 11 a.m. Eastern, will be picking probably, see how many games Duke has lined up. I think 25. It's probably his goal for this week. It just slowly it increases as the weeks go on.
This week too is so gross. I had Alabama winning by 60 points. They just broke that game just broke my model. I can't do anything with it. And there's so many games that are like 25 plus point favorites. This week is gross.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I was looking at the Big Ten schedule, because the Big Ten is getting very interesting, right? And like with Ohio State coming back down towards the pack, Penn State looks good. Iowa. It remains to be seen if Iowa's the offense to contend. Wisconsin's still there. Michigan's looked really good so far. Even Michigan State's looked pretty good so far.
What the hell is up with this?
And then I was like looking at it, and it's like nothing this week. And I'm like Penn State's playing Villanova, Michigan's playing Rutgers. They're 3 touchdown favorites. So it's a rough week for college football. But that's why Duke and I will pick 25 games. We'll get the we have a little spread contest going on. I'm beating him by a couple games, so I got to keep that going. And then Sunday morning, I'll have the NFL preview show at 10 a.m. So, any final words from you, Frank, before we sign off?
Ryder Cup starts Friday. Paulie and I did a video on that. You guys can check it out on the channels right there. Elite Betting, Elite Sports Network, or just kind of scroll down on anyone's Twitter feed and see it. I believe the Elite Sports Betting handle has tweeted out the video quite a bit. So. Maybe still some value put out there. I think he's slowly, as markets sort of develop there, adding plays, and I'm sure he'll get some bets in on head-to-head matches that are going to be coming out on Sunday. I'm sure he'll have some plays on the best ball and the alternate shot and all that good stuff as well. So I'm deferring to him for that stuff. But we did a long video on a lot of the futures that he liked. We put out his whole card at the time. Again, I'm sure he still added some up. So EliteSportsBetting.com, you guys can check out all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking. It looks like he's got, 8 to 10 plays up there for the Ryder Cup. You got the U.S. winning? Did they pull through here?
This is man,
do they care enough? I guess is the question.
The thing is they all hate each other, so it's not a good team environment, and
the Europeans live for this.
Yeah, I mean, this is their thing, and it's, match play, and it's sort of, but this whistling streak is long, and these guys aren't. There's a handful of guys, Rom, Hovland, Rory on the European side, they can hit it in decent ways, but the rest guys really can't, and the U.S. guys are just bombers. But we've had this setup before, and they've just extremely underwhelmed because they all hate each other. So I don't know.
What was the last time they won?
Oh, they've won 3 of the last 12 events or something like that. I think they've lost 9 of 12. But this is as big of an overmatch, in my opinion, that you're going to find, because 1, the course setup, 2, home soil typically means a lot in these things. And the European side is strapped with guys like Fleetwood and Sergio and Lowry and Westwood, all guys that are sort of, 1, not made for this course, and 2, have been playing well recently. So we'll see.
Yep. So that you said starts Friday.
Starts Friday.
Yeah. So again, head over the Elite at Elite Wins on Twitter. That account has tweeted that preview out. So watch that before that gets started on Friday. We got college football and NFL. Baseball still going. We're getting close to the playoffs. We have like a week and a half left. Baseball, 2 weeks before the playoffs start here.
I think end of this month, right?
Yeah, there's I saw 12-ish games left. Hopefully, my Mariners find a way into the playoffs so I can let Dream take that one. So that's it for us. For Frank, I am Austin. Another edition of the Opening Line College Football for Week 4. Again, we gave out 6 plays, more plays over to EliteSportsBetting.com. So head over there for the rest of the action. And that is it. We will see you next time. I will be on Lunch Money tomorrow. And until then, see you then.